Hello guys and welcome to another video. The time is finally here. Today I am teaching you how to make a Camp Half Blood necklace. And you might be thinking, why go through the trouble of making personalized beads for a necklace that you could just buy online for super cheap? Well, because if you want it for cheap, you get A, colored beads that are plastic, and B, also have no design on them. Or you get a super expensive handmade necklace that someone like me has made and is selling on Etsy. So to save you the trouble of that Google search, today I am teaching you how to do this. You can have this in your own house. Since Disney Plus has not yet bothered to put out official merch for this, I'm showing you how to do it DIY, and we're starting today. Let's go. So first of all, let's talk about what materials you're gonna need for this project. Obviously, the most important part of all are the beads. The first batch that I got were 13 millimeters, and those were just a little too small for my liking, so I bought the 15 millimeter ones, and they were so much better. Like 2 millimeters can really make a big difference. While you're looking at beads, make sure to also look at leather cords. They don't have to be leather, but you do need something to put the beads on, and you need the beads to be able to fit in the leather cord because sometimes the hole is a little bit too small. So be sure to check out those dimensions before you purchase anything. When I bought my beads, I bought wooden beads without any kind of coloring on them, which is an option. I just had to color all of them by hand, which is a process you'll see later. But if you're lucky enough to find wooden beads in the right sizing with the right colors, then I would assure you that that's probably the better option. Painting them isn't like that much of a hustle, but it is time consuming. If you want to make your life easier and you're lucky enough to find wooden beads that are colored and at the right size, then I would recommend going for that. Once you have your beads and your leather cord, you're going to need your paints. Now, what color paints, I hear you asking? Well, that really depends on what beads you want to make. Also, by the way, I used acrylic paint that was over 10 years old. So if you got the budget to buy new paints, that's probably better. Speaking of colors, I use orange, white, black, green, yellow, red, dark blue, purple, and yellow again, and emerald green. Now, obviously, a lot of these I got by mixing colors, so you don't really have to buy that many paints. You just need to buy the primary colors, and black is what I would say the must-have. Oh, and obviously white. But in terms of what colors you do need, it does depend on what beads you want to make. Now, this isn't really official according to the books because I have created a Camp Half Blood bead that does not exist just because I wanted a little bit of a pop of color in my necklace without resorting to the first beads that Annabeth has, because those, they can tell a lot of details. They're like a centaur wearing a dress, a burning ship. They're very detailed, so I didn't have the willpower to go through with those. So today's tutorial is going to include a Camp Half Blood bead, a Thalia pine tree bead, a Percy's Trident bead, a golden fleece bead, a Labyrinth bead, because I know you might be thinking, then where's the bead for book 3, for the Titans course? Let me tell you, that book takes place in the winter. The campers only get beads when they complete a full summer at Camp Half Blood. So therefore there is no official bead for book 3 because it wasn't during the summer. After that, we have the Labyrinth, and we also have the Empire State with all the little names for the Battle of Manhattan. The one for Camp Jupiter might also be official, but this last one that I have is the one that I designed for the Trials of Apollo because I felt like that deserved a bead. So I went ahead and created one myself. Now, I'm not gonna teach you how to make this one. I'm just gonna teach you the official ones that we've gotten so far, plus the Camp Half Blood because it looks so good with the orange. So you have your beads, you have your leather cord, you have your paints. What else do you need? Obviously, you need paint brushes. If you have colored beads, you don't need paintbrushes necessarily, only like a very small one if you want to get those details in, but I have another trick for that. If you have one of those palettes where you can put your paint on, that is also a plus, but not a necessity. What I use to make the small details on these beads are toothpicks. I find that's a very easy way to get detail on there, and if you have good paint, then I think that's the best way you can go about it. If you already have colored beads, I think you could use markers, but for me, I was using it on paint and markers don't really work for that. So you're just gonna need a steady hand and a toothpick. Now, a hack that my brother and I found out the first time we were making our necklaces is using paper clips. So you find something that you can stick your paper clips into, you put your paper clips in a bent position so you can actually paint your bead. Your bead is a sphere, meaning that there's going to be no good way to hold it and you need to paint all of it. So if you put it on your little paper clip, you can paint around it and then leave it to dry without any bit of the sphere touching any other surface. Therefore, the paint dries better. Before we get to the next step, go follow me on Instagram and on TikTok at aka Unclaimed Demigod, because I'm posting a lot more of short form content on there. And if you do end up making your own Camp Have Blood beaded necklace, please tag me because I want to see all of your creations. Let's get on to the next step. Apart from all of that, you're also going to need a cup of water just so you can clean paintbrushes between different coats of color, and also a little paper towel just so you can dry them off as you clean them. So the first thing to do is just get all of your colors ready. Once you have all your colors ready, it's time to start in your first bead. Start painting and stacking them on the paper clips as I showed you. So you might think going in order is the best so you can keep track of them, and that's a good order to choose, but I actually would advise going from lightest to darker, not just for cleaning up safe with your paintbrushes, but also because lighter colors like white and yellow might need more layers of paint than darker colors like black. Black, you can just do one layer and that's it. Like, you can go home, you can rest. But with white, if you have like a thinner paint, then yes, you would need more than a layer. FYI, this is not the beaded necklace I am doing for this video. I already had this and I decided to make 3 new beaded necklaces for the video, or 2 beaded necklaces and a surprise project, which you'll see if you make it to the end of the video. So the end product isn't going to look exactly like this. This is just what we're going for. A tip that I had to learn the hard way the first time I tried to paint my first white bead is that sometimes your paint, if it's old, it's a little bit clunky, so it leaves a lot of texture on the bead, and you don't necessarily want that because you want to paint a clean design later on. So the smoother you can make the paint in those first couple of layers, the better. So a trick for this is, if your paint isn't really cooperating, just mix in a little bit of water at a time, a couple of drops at a time, and that way you make it more liquid and you get rid of the bumps. The more liquid your paint is, the more layers you're going to need, but the easier it is going to be to apply and the less texture that your beads are going to have. So you're going to have to make a choice. Do you want to have less work and just do one layer, or do you want to put in the effort so you get like a cleaner look at the end? If you get lumpy paint, we do have a solution for this later on, so stay tuned. Now, you're probably just going to be making 7 beads in total for yourself, right? Maybe you just want to make the beads that Percy has. So you just want to have officially these 4 ones. Maybe you want to add the Camp Jupiter one. Okay, so you have 5. And maybe you want to add the Thalia one, so you have 6. And maybe you even like my design for the Camp Have Blood one and you have 7 beads. Okay, I had 21 beads because I decided for some reason that I was gonna triple the work for myself. And that's fine, but that also means that on that first day that I took on this project, I spent 2 hours painting 21 beads. And that's because, yes, I had to clean my paintbrushes a lot from color to color, but also because I had to wait for them to dry. I do recommend starting off with just the one beaded necklace, and then if you like the process, then you can do more than one. But take it easy and just have a chill afternoon doing it. You are going to need to do it in more than one day, just because you do need things to dry. This isn't really a one-day project unless you can get paint to dry really quick. Then theoretically, it can be a one-day thing. So with 21 beads took me 2 hours to paint. Because I did do 2 coats of paint for every bead, then that means I technically did 42 beads in 2 hours. That means I did 21 beads in 1 hour, which means that in just 20 minutes, you could be done with your 7 beads, which isn't bad. So if you want to do 1 coat of paint, it'll probably take about 20 minutes for those 7 beads. And then if you want to do 2 coats, it'll probably take 40 minutes, which isn't too bad, seeing that I spent 2 hours. After you're done painting all your beads and after you are finally happy with how many layers you have, it's time to just let them dry. At this point of the process, your colors aren't going to look like what they're going to look by the end of the process. So if your orange or your yellow are a little bit more pastel and a little bit more muted, do not worry at all about that, because there is one trick that we can do at the end to make all the colors more vibrant and just pop. So if your colors are looking a little bit flat and not very glossy, don't you worry, girl. I got the tip for you. Just let them them dry and move on to your next step. Our next step, of course, is to do the actual detailing. Now, it might not look like there is, but there is quite a lot of details because these are going to move around a lot as you wear them. So they aren't always going to be, you know, appreciated all at the same time, but the detail is there. So if you've, like me, decided to do 7 different beads, that means you have to do details on 7 different things, and 7 things that are going to look very, very different. So let's go bead by bead. The first bead that we're going to do today is the Camp Half-Blood bead. Now, technically, this should be the easiest because the design is just CHB. I try to make it look like the official font for the Camp Half-Blood t-shirt. So that means they're like a little bit pointy. The trick to get this done right is for the H to be the first letter you draw. Now, the coloring in this is easy. You just need to get pure black, so you don't even have to mix anything. Once you have your black, the first thing you do is you take a little pencil and you sketch the letters that you want to draw. Because going at it freehand is good if you're a really good artist, but just so you get a better sense of dimensions and how everything is going to fit, it's better to do a pencil sketch first because this is a sphere. So the drawing might go a little bit wobbly if you do like a very big H in the middle and then you don't have space for anything else. You don't want that to happen. So keep in mind that you're gonna be drawing on a curve. Start with your H and then I would say your C and your B. The skinnier you can make your H, the better. So just start in and you're using your toothpick, so you go point by point by point and then you just connect the dots, right? That's just all there is to it. The closer you can get this to your face, the better. I had 3 chances to do this, so while I was not filming, I did it very close to my head. I put my hand on something so I would have like a steadier pulse, and then I just went. For the filming process though, I had to put it on the table and it was harder because I was looking through my phone. I would not recommend that you do that, but the steadier both of your hands are, the better. Once you have your Camp Half-Blood one ready, you leave it out to dry. Like I said, you can just put it on your paper clips, but now it's only wet on one side, so if you have like anything you can rest it on where it's not going to move too much, that's good. I've been using a plastic tray from a chocolates box, so if you have anything like that lying around in your house, it's actually very convenient for this project. But your next bead would be your Thalia bead. So for this one, you're going to need any kind of green color that reminds you of a pine tree, or any kind of green that you really like, and a little bit of brown. If you don't have brown, you can just mix orange and blue, yellow and purple, or green and red. I think my favorite one would be red and green, especially since you already have the green. But once you have your colors, I would recommend once again starting by drawing your sketch. It's a tree, it's easy, you just go boop, 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 and then I would recommend starting off with the paint with the trunk since it's the darkest one. So you just want to get your solid little square there. That means that you're not going to get your green paint messy later on, and you're not going to get a chunk of trunk in the middle of your tree. I always would recommend going in with the middle of the tree first, and then you can go ahead and do the outside branches. At this point, my 15-year-old paint decided to get really lumpy, but actually I didn't mind it at all because for the little details, I liked that they had a little bit of volume, especially for the tree, and then later on for the golden fleece, I think it actually looks really cute and adds to the design. So if you do have lumpier paint, this is a good time to use it and not actually dissolve it with water. Because in this step, the denser the paint, the easier it is going to be to add those details, because we are using a toothpick, so you can't really use very liquid water for that. And this whole process for me, for the 21 beads I did in total, it took me 4 hours to do all the detailing. And trust me, I know because this was me for 4 hours. My neck felt it the following day. I did get to listen to an 8-hour audiobook at 2 times the speed, so that was fun. Once you're done with bead number 2, you're on to probably the easiest bead that you're going to see today, and that is the Trident that claims Percy as Poseidon's son. So for my original bead, I used a very light green, and I think this is actually a better idea than what I did for this video, because I was like, I'm gonna use an emerald green to match Percy's eyes, and it ended up looking a little little bit dark against the black. So if you want your Trident to really stand out and to be really visible against its black background, I would suggest using the lightest shade of green that you can. It also adds to that shimmer effect because it's a projection. So go for the lightest shade of green that you like, and then you start painting. You might think that you can't paint with a pencil on a black bead, but you can. So go very lightly. You draw your Trident, just one line and then two little lines coming out of it. It's not too difficult. Doing straight lines is a little bit hard because every time you dip your toothpick into the paint, you get a different amount of paint, and therefore the thickness changes in the dots that you leave. Be very patient. Go slowly, go dot by dot. If you think your line is too thin, you can always go back and make it thicker. So it's always better to start out thinner than you think you're gonna need. And that's also something that you can apply to eyeliner. So lesson I've learned the hard way. So once you're done with bead number 3 and you leave that to dry in a place you know it's not gonna move around and then ruin the whole design, you move on to bead number 4. And bead number 4 is one of the cutest beads, but also maybe the hardest one to do. And that is the golden fleece. Now for this one, I went through a lot of different designs in my head. In my original design for this one, this is literally just a yellow cloud, a very light yellow cloud. So I decided to give it a little head and 4 legs, so you could tell that it wasn't just a cloud. And I think going more golden for this was actually a good idea because it is a golden fleece, not like a pastel yellow fleece. So for this one, I actually used like a golden yellow, a little bit of an ochre, and a white for the body. So as per usual, you start with your pencil sketch and then you go in. Always darker color first. So you go in with your yellow, your gold, and you do the cloud design. It's not too hard. It's literally just a couple of circles mushed together so it looks like a little cloud. For this one, I went really hard on the texture and you can actually feel it. It's kind of bumpy and I think it's so cute. You can see that the texture is on top of the bead and it's very, very textured. For maybe the Labyrinth, it doesn't work as well, but for the tree specifically and this little bead, it works really well. So once you're done doing your main body, you're going to want to go to the face and the legs. Now be careful because the main body isn't going to be fully dried yet. So you want to go in very, very lightly and make sure that the paint doesn't mix. But the face is just a little oval and then the legs are just stick legs, so it shouldn't be too hard. It's nothing you can't do after doing that Trident. This is probably the hardest bead. I don't know how I forgot it, but I decided that just doing it on one face of the bead wasn't hard enough, that I wanted to challenge myself not only to do it on the whole surface of the sphere, but to do it 3 times. So this is probably the most time-consuming one and the most mind power consuming one. So maybe leave this one either for the beginning, like so you start off strong, or for the end. The last 20 minutes are going to be spent doing just this. And just so you know, this is probably an hour-long process because for me to do 3 sets of beads, it took me 4 hours. So it'll probably take you around an hour 20. So just like this one, I started with a triangle in the front and then the labyrinth in the back. So you're gonna want to start doing a red triangle, which is actually the Greek symbol for alpha. And if you've read the books, which I'm hoping you have, it's the symbol of Daedalus for how to find the openings of the labyrinth. So you have to do a little red triangle in the middle of the bead, and then you're going to want to do a labyrinth-like design. Now you can go ham in this one, do whatever you want. I decided to make it black because it's really striking next to the red and the yellow. And I just decided to do some circular designs that actually led nowhere at all. So this one is actually very fun if you're a creative person just doing random designs. You can make it as hard on yourself as you want to. If you just want to do it on one face of the sphere, that is completely logical. But look, this is the only bead that has designs all the way. It doesn't actually always have to be resting on the same place. I wouldn't recommend it still. It's very, very hard because you have to have it in a very particular way because it doesn't dry, right? I didn't wait for it to dry when I went to the next step, so I had to use my paper clip hack again, turn it very slowly, and then leave it to dry on that paper clip again. So if you want to make your life easy, just have a plain design for this one. Don't make your life harder. Also, disclaimer, I used my own designs based on what was suggested in the books. We know the Trident, that one is super easy, and then for book 2, that one is super clear as well. Also books 4 and 5. 5. So those, we have almost the exact same designs, I feel like. Like what I got is what we get in the books. If you want to do the other designs that Annabeth has, I found this really cute post that I'm gonna leave down in the description below because it studied like everything and how it should look. Rick doesn't explain it very well, and I think only 2 beads that Annabeth have are mentioned because Annabeth does have 5 beads including Thalia's tree before Percy's one. So moving on to an easier bead, we finally have Battle of Manhattan in The Last Olympian. This bead isn't too hard. Obviously, I wasn't going to sketch names in Greeks for every fallen Camp Half-Blood camper around the Empire State, so I decided to just do little white dots which resemble stars, and I thought that was very fitting. So of course, you're going to want to start in with your white paint. Just draw one line down the middle, and then you can sketch your Empire State around that line. Once you're done with your main Empire State, I drew a line of little dots just so I could choose what was the floor, and then above it I would just paint the stars. This is also one where you can have the design realistically going all the way around. The stars, I think that would be very cute. It didn't occur to me, and I didn't want to use a paper clip again, so I just did like a small sphere around the Empire State and just did little dots. Be careful because those dots can become lines if you don't handle your paint correctly. Be patient and go dot by dot by dot. Once you're done with that one, you're technically done with all the ones that Percy has in the series, but I, of course, I'm crazy, so I wanted to go one step further, and I made one for Camp Jupiter because I'm pretty sure that's the one they got the year that all the things with Gaia went down in Heroes of Olympus. And since I decided to start off with a Camp Half-Blood one, I thought what better way to end this beaded necklace than with a Camp Jupiter one, like full circle moment. These are the only official beads that Percy has, and I'm not sure if this one is yellow in the books, so it's really not that colorful. Adding the orange and the purple is really gonna make it pop more. Every time I look at myself with this on, I'm like, I made this. I'm so happy. Etsy and AliExpress are fine, I guess, but there's nothing like achieving crafts on your own, like DIYing. It just is so fulfilling. So we're finally at our 7th and last bead. I decided to go again with that ochre, yellowish, goldish color. And this is another one where we have letters, so be careful with the spacing. We have 4 letters, S, P, Q, R. Once again, I would start with the P and the Q and then do the S and the R. And then I thought doing letters in such a cramped space wasn't hard enough, so I decided to do like a wreath. You know, when you win something in ancient Greece or ancient Rome, you get the wreath on your head, so I decided to do one below and one on top of it. It's just crisscrossing shapes. And I decided to do like little golden leaves on the end to give it just a little bit more of a pizzazz of an imperial feeling. And I think it turned out pretty okay. Once you're done with this bead, you can rest for the day. Finally, take a deep breath, massage your neck, and I would suggest stretching it side to side, like going like this a couple of times. Now, you might be thinking the next logical step is to wait for them to dry and then to finally put them in your cord. And you, my friend, would be wrong. There is one final step before that, and that is to paint them again, but my friends, with clear nail polish. Now this is a trick that my sister taught my brother and I. Not only does it change the color drastically, not only does it make it pop, not only does it do that, but it also protects the paint and the design, and it helps it not chip. I've had this since before the quarantine, so I would say like 5, maybe 6 years. It's in perfect condition. I've worn it a lot. I traveled to New Zealand with it. You know, it stands the test of time. If you want your 4 hours of hard work to have been worth it, you do have to varnish it, and the easiest way to do so with things that you probably have lying around your house is to have clear nail polish. In case you don't believe me, I did a before and after shoot of this, so you can see the differences in color and in shine of the different beads before using the clear nail polish and after using it. I think it's most noticeable in the orange and the purple because I had a hard time making those pop, so they felt like very grayish pastels. After I put on the clear nail polish, it was a whole different world. Do this. You will need more toothpicks just to hold them because you're going to want to use a clear nail polish all over the surface. Again, it's a sphere, so you don't want to leave it somewhere that it's going to really stick with the clear nail polish. So use the paper clips so they can hang over something and then just dry without touching anything else. That's a very important part because it will leave weird bumps if it touches something and then sticks to it. Nail polish is very sticky. I actually wouldn't recommend skipping this step. Like, this is probably the most important step to maintaining it in the future and to making it look so much prettier. Now, finally, we've gotten to probably the last step, which is putting it in the cord. The cord, by the way, you have to get one that wraps around your head twice. As you can see, this can be either a choker or like a longer necklace because this doesn't have a clasp. It has a system where you can just elongate it so you can take it out of your head. I have a pretty big head, so I need quite a bit of cord to be able to actually pull it up and then pull it back in. So you want to have like a decent amount of cord, and then you want to have a mom that is able to do the knots. So first of all, put the beads in the middle of the cord and then do a simple knot at each side. I decided I wanted them to be able to move around a bit, almost a centimeter or like 7 millimeters of space there, so they would be able to move around a bit and turn around. If you don't want that, just make it like a harder knot and then they will be like this, very tight. So once you're done with the 2 simple knots at the sides, you're going to want to do a slip knot at each side. Now, I have no clue how my mother did this, but she's just very, very talented. So she did a slip knot at each side. Now I can just pull here, and it will slip right back to a choker length. And that's pretty much it for this tutorial. As I said, I did 3 of these. The first one was for my sister's 31st birthday. The second one, and the original idea for this whole video, was actually for my friend McKenna's. I'm giving it to her when I go to New York this month to visit her. And the third one was actually born out of a failed white bead run. Came out so lumpy, I was like, I can't give this to them. So I was like, maybe instead of doing it twice, I'll do it 3 times. It was a bad choice, but I was like, I'm just gonna make myself a keychain, or like, this could also be a bookmark. This isn't the finished design. I was just playing around to see what I could do with them because I don't want another beaded necklace. But I was like, look at this. This is so fun.
I mean, look at what I've accomplished. Do you see him? Do you think a depressed person could make this?
Let's try it out as a bookmark. Say you're reading The Son of Neptune and you just got into a non-Percy chapter. You're like, I can't do this anymore. You go like this, you put it here, and then boom! This is so cute. I love it. I think I'm gonna use it as a keychain, or even better, you could let it hang off the bottom of the book. That is so cute! Get on my level. I think I might just have the best Percy Jackson collection in the whole world. I have it all, and I even have extra DIYs. This is the one that I was filming because I wanted the ones that I gave away to people to be like the best versions. So I didn't film as I drew them just because I wanted to give my full attention to them. So these are like the worst ones, but still, I would say they're always turning. I would say they're still pretty good. And now you can see what I meant before. You can see the trident on my neck very well from a distance, but here it's a little bit darker and hard to see. Please do a lighter shade of green. Learn from my mistakes. This 7 beads make me so happy. Yes, it did almost break my spirit and my neck, but at the same time I had so much fun. Like, I'm discovering a whole side of me that I didn't know existed. Apparently I'm obsessed with crafting. Even if it cost me 3 times what the original one would have costed, it feels like it's free because I did pay for the materials, but I did it myself, so it doesn't feel like it's as expensive. I really shouldn't be as proud as I am of this, but I really am. In case you're wondering, this is the one I'm keeping for myself, and this is the one I'm giving to my friend McKenna. It hasn't yet been assembled as of this point in video making. So that is it for this video. Overall, I would say just have 3 days, 3 afternoons free to do all this. Technically, it doesn't take 3 days, but just so you leave them to dry as much as possible, I think 3 days are necessary. Please leave a like if you like this video. Comment down below if you've ever made your own DIY for Percy Jackson or for any other fandom. I would love to know. And please remember to tag me at aka Unclaimed Demigod on either Instagram or TikTok, because I would love to see your creations. I hope you do follow this tutorial and that you make one, because anything you make is probably going to be better than anything you can buy, and it's also going to mean so much more to you. Trust me, it is worth it, and you don't have to be super artistic to do this. Technically, I did this 4 times, so yeah, you can definitely do this once. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click that bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. I post videos just like this every single Friday, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye!